Hello and welcome to Gamers Table, a discussion of tabletop role-playing games, war games, movies, books, and other related topics. Be warned, this show may contain some explicit material that may not be suitable for all audiences.
Hello and welcome to Gamers Table. My name is Eric.
This is Mike.
This is Dan. This is Mark.
This is Jason.
And I am not Sean, I am Greg.
Welcome, Greg.
Welcome back, Greg.
It's been far too long.
Sean's
I
on
agree.
vacation.
Sean's in Vegas.
I thought he was in Mexico.
No, he put a thing on
He's been
Facebook.
talking about Vegas for weeks. Why
Yeah.
do you think he was in Mexico?
I think that's where they went the last time.
Oh, I don't
That's
know.
what I'm thinking.
I don't know, but
At the
no,
Grand Canyon?
yeah, he was at the Grand Canyon, and then he put a thing on Facebook of a picture of a Star Wars
Yeah, I saw that.
thing?
Slot machine.
slot machine. Yeah, like a progressive slot machine. He was like throwing money in.
It was a penny slot, though.
Well,
Well, real casinos get games like that.
You like put your pennies in Darth Vader's
I don't know, his slot.
his mouth grill, and then he yank out his lightsaber.
I have no idea.
No, you're talking about your strange wet dreams.
This episode, we're going to talk about superhero RPGs, the genre, the games that we know, the process that we go through to come up with characters, adventures, things like that.
So this, if I remember correctly, this is a topic by the community. It was posted on Facebook by Paul, excuse me if I mess up your last name, Solus.
Oh, yeah.
He wanted to know what we thought of superhero RPGs.
They suck.
They suck.
We hate it. We only
Roll credits.
played one for 4 years and
Answered that one, didn't we?
I think Heroes, especially Fred, is pretty damn amazing.
What?
I don't
5th
even,
edition revised Heroes.
5th edition hero.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, Greg's the only one here who really understands how that works.
That's because he
And
is
he may be
partially
fitted.
insane.
yeah.
Yes.
If you look at all the different superhero genre games, I mean, there's all kinds for pretty much any comic book company or whatnot.
Yeah.
Margaret Weiss just made a new Marvel
Yes.
superheroes
Yes.
game, if I remember right.
Yeah, that's a good example because you have licensed property superheroes. I mean, with the Avengers just recently coming out and the success that it had, I think that the interest in a superhero genre role-playing game would go up because people are pumped. They love the movie. They go into comic book shops. They start reading the comics again, and the natural progression of that is, hey, let's play a game. Dan, you always had the idea of playing a superhero game in a comic book shop because that would attract new players.
Yeah, it attracts new players because of comic books are easily accessible by their nature. So I always thought that superhero RPGs would have some of that same kind of low barrier to entry because you can think of anything.
A
Yeah.
gateway drug.
Right, kind of like a gateway drug.
Sure.
Up until the last several years, though, it always seemed like all the superhero RPGs that were put out were so bad.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's something I was going to say,
I
too.
wouldn't say bad. I would say difficult because original champions, though, if you had somebody who knew what they were doing running it, was great.
I'd never even heard of Champions until within the last few years.
Yeah, Champions is a good example of a good superhero game if you can get over, and Heroes the same thing because it's essentially the same system.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
If you can get over just the absolute mountain of rules.
And the math-intensive
I think that
making
was-
of the character.
I think that was our problem with playing Champion. I
Yeah.
don't think we had anybody. I think you had the books, didn't you?
I don't even remember which edition it was.
Yeah.
It was so long ago. But then, but like Mark's saying though, you've got some of these games that the old Marvel superheroes game, the DC Heroes game.
DC Heroes was particularly weird. At least the
It
edition
was.
that I had.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
It
was
like
weird.
came with its own special dice that I didn't understand.
Oh, that was a second or the one that Jason and I know about.
The original Mayfair.
The Mayfair Games one. It was difficult and it wasn't even really that good. And then the one you're talking about where they tried to go into this special dice mechanic and things like that.
You think that was just kind of to cash in on comic popularity at the time? They didn't really
I do.
care.
Because it came out, I think, about the time of the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Well, I was going to say which one.
Yeah, which one?
And I'm not a big fan of any role-playing game that comes out with special dice or special dice mechanic, or you've got to buy other dice for it. I've got enough dice.
No, you don't.
dice-
You never have enough dice.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's-
Says the guy who's pared down to how many sets? 3?
I've transcended. you haven't got
He's
to this
gotten
point
through
yet.
it. Yes.
Dan reached the singularity.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, then you've got the Marvel game. You had the old face rip system.
I never understood face rip. I mean, I know we sat down and we played, back in the day, we played Marvel, we played DC. I know you and I probably played DC one-on-one
Right.
many times. I think, getting back to DC, I think the thing that I liked the most about DC was just the fact that I could lay those characters out on the table and I could see who was the most powerful because they gave them numbers. You know,
You could see just how much badder Superman was than everybody else.
and it was ridiculous.
Well, of
Right.
course
It was
See,
ridiculous.
that's why I'm still offended with the new DC, the Mutants and Masterminds. Is Martian Manhunter not nearly as powerful as he should be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not nearly as
Spoken
powerful.
like a true fanboy.
But that was but the thing about the Marvel game was face rip never made sense to me.
Well, and for those of people who don't know what we're talking
I
about,
have
present
no
company
idea what you're
included.
talking about.
Right here.
It was their abilities. F was for fighting. A was for agility. S.
Okay, I'm sorry. It wasn't face rip that I didn't understand. It was the table, the shift X, and that
it worked off of
for
it.
you?
power progression. I just didn't get it, dude. I'm the guy that had to cheat off of you in math.
I was going to say, I think Mike's looking down on you right now.
And that's fine. Math was never my strong suit.
Yeah,
I
but-
don't do maths.
I don't do math either.
But I don't know if you remember this or not, but before the Margaret Weiss Marvel superhero game, there was a it's like Marvel Superhero Adventures or something like that came out before that a lot of people like, but it had a card mechanic, and a lot of people didn't like that.
I bought that book and then found out about the card mechanic, and I never opened that book again.
I mean, there are people who don't want cards involved in their role-playing games. There's other people, like people who play Deadlands, who love cards in their game.
Speaking of which, I'm going to tangent for just a second. Deadlands started a Kickstarter
Yes.
for Deadlands Noir based in Louisiana.
Yes.
Cool.
It's
Yes.
1930s
Yeah. Cool.
Deadlands.
Sweet. I
So
can get into that.
there's
Yeah,
a Kickstarter for it, and
James Cagney.
What do you get?
it
Like
depends.
normal, depending on how
Just
much
depends
you
on how
buy
much you
in, you
Yeah,
get the book.
They're like max out one has already been purchased, which was like $1,000, and it was a lot of nice stuff. But the middle of the road stuff's pretty nice. But anyway, getting away from just individual systems, though, when you're talking about, I guess we can't really do that before we talk about Mutants and Masterminds.
Oh my God, that
Yeah.
was
Oh,
great.
yeah.
Yeah,
The greatest system ever.
Yeah.
we
I
are.
love Steve Kenson. The guy is just awesome personified.
Now who's kissing ass?
I won't lie. I preferred
would.
Mutants and Masterminds before it went True 20, but as True 20, I do still enjoy it.
What? True 20 is great. It's great.
Well, I mean,
You
Whenever I
find
say
where
it's
his crack
great,
stash is and get rid of it.
Great.
well, what we have here is we have people on opposite sides of the table who believe in two different philosophies of gaming.
Quite literally two opposite ends of the table.
Exactly. Greg believes that rules crunch adds to the charm of a game
And sometimes a realism.
and realism, because if you have a rule for it, then you can really break down this and that. You don't have to glaze over anything. And then you've got
And
Dan.
I think that's crap.
Well, and then Dan believes that rules light is, and True 20 is pretty rules light. If you want to go even lighter than rules light Mutants and Masterminds, then you're looking at Supers, which is an indie game that is very rules light, but it's very cool in that you can kind of, two people at the same table could have the same power, but yet can completely come up with different ways that they work. The mechanic still works the same. It's a different philosophy. What do you want? Do you want rules light or do you want rules heavy? And I'm kind of in the middle of the road. I see the charm of a rules heavy superhero game or game in general. I always like the minutia of keeping track of every little piece of my character. But I also see the charm in the quick game too, where it's all broken down into
I think
one.
Yeah, see, that's kind of my thing. It's like the less I have to keep track of, the better.
Well, I think for me, it's fun. I loved trying, quote unquote, to make a champions character, and I love the hero system to make characters. Because to me, that's almost like a story problem that you're trying to figure out. But whenever, because
That's true. That's very good.
Yeah.
That's a good likeness.
But whenever it comes to playing, I don't want to have to deal with this stuff, and I just want to play the game.
Right. Right.
If I was a super genius, and if we never had to flip through a rule book to get through these games, then it would be fine. But
Thank you for the compliment, by the way.
that's right. Good job.
Super genius. You know what
That's what super genius is. Idiot savant.
Yeah.
He's giving me the finger now.
You know what I find is funny is the one and only game that I think you've ever ran, Dan, for me was a Champions game. That was a really long time ago, and I recall it because
I think that was at my house, wasn't it?
no, it was at Sean's old little bitty house.
Yeah, the one that has mold growing in every
Was it
crevice
really?
of it now. Yeah.
Right.
I must have missed that.
It was a game you ran for. I think it was me, Brian, Sean, and Ed. I believe.
I'm pretty sure I was there.
You
I'm
may
almost
have been, but
I'm almost positive I was.
the mechanic he used was that nobody knew what their powers were, and you developed your powers through your role play. then he made your character for you after about, like 4 game sessions.
That was the plan anyway.
I do remember doing that because I remember, and I may have only been there for one session, but the session that I was there for, it was testing. We were strength testing to see which one of us was the strongest character.
Right. And which I thought was, at the time, one thing that you did was my guy could fly, but it was because he telekinetically lifted himself. People who read the new 52 DC line, the Superboy in there, that's how he flies and lifts things, is because of telekinesis.
Tactile telekinesis.
For whatever
That was a big
reason,
thing.
that always made more sense, and like that seemed more real to me than Superman can fly. Why can Superman fly?
Well, that's not actually a new concept.
It's not.
I think John Byrne actually threw that into the Superman mythology in '86 when they came out with Man of Steel.
Can I ask a question on this? I did not know that, so can I still take credit for it as an original idea? This is a valid question.
It's just like I mean, it was Thomas Edison and some other dude came up with a light bulb at the same time,
right?
So
yeah, it was like I was reading online today the movie Battle Royale, which is based on a manga that's been out forever in Japan, came out, and people are bagging it because it was that the Hunger Games ripped it off. And I'm like, I really doubt that the author of the Hunger Games read Battle Royale.
I'm pretty sure she did.
Oh, definitely.
No, I don't.
Total ripoff. It was clearly a ripoff.
I've never even seen it. I don't really want to see it.
It looks really good, actually. I think you dig it.
It's the concept of a elite class of people forcing a lower class person to fight for their entertainment is not new. The Romans did it all the time.
Yeah,
I think we're headed that way anyway.
And the ripoff of Battle Royale and then the Hunger Games comes this fall on television when there's like 3 different shows that are going to have people wielding bows. There is going to be a Green Arrow show on CW this fall. By the same people who made Smallville.
Minus Jeff Loeb, you've got my attention.
Come on, somebody.
No.
Everyone's leaving him hanging.
Leaving him hanging.
Mark got me.
I got him. I'm with the Green Arrow. I like that dude.
Got no backbone.
They were going to make a movie with Green Arrow, and they were going to call it like I don't remember what they were going to call it. No, he was going to be. They caught him, and they put him in prison, and then he was going to have to fight off all these guys that he had put in prison.
Can't believe
Ryan
the internet's.
Reynolds.
Yeah,
No,
Ryan
it was-
Reynolds is in everything now.
No, not Ryan Reynolds. Screw that guy.
So now, like I said, with the popularity of the Avengers movie,
Strike while the iron is hot.
right? And we discussed this before, but the Avengers movie is essentially the Ultimates from Marvel.
Sure.
Yes.
With the popularity of those things.
Which is the best maneuver they could have made. in
Sure.
my opinion.
I
For
agree.
all of our listeners who are not comic book people and have seen the Avengers and think, man, that's really good, read the Ultimates.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
will dig the movie even more.
Yeah.
Actually, read the Ultimates Volume 1, not Volume 2, because Jeff Loeb screwed it up.
Well, I was going to say Volume 1's it's still a 2 book trade.
Yes.
2 books. In
Yeah.
Volume
Yes.
1.
What's up with Jeff Loeb?
He's an idiot.
Why won't he go
Pretty sure.
away?
And people, for some reason, won't tell him that.
He ruined Heroes.
In the entertainment industry, you fail upwards.
And I'm going to correct Dan.
It's
Yes.
you rise to the
2 is
level of
not
your
Jeff
own
Loeb.
incompetence.
Volume 2 is not Jeff Loeb?
No,
Which
Volume
one
2 is good too.
That's Mark
Volume
Millar
2
also,
is
isn't
good
it?
also.
Okay,
Yes,
when
Volume 3 that
did
went
Jeff
back.
Loeb screw it up?
That's when I jumped off was Volume
Right.
3.
Was it?
Okay.
Was it not Bendis ever? Was I confusing
Yeah, I think
Bendis with Mark Millar?
it was all Mark Millar, I believe.
Yes, I remember now because Mark Millar had done The Authority.
Yes.
And
I should totally make a movie
it was
about that.
Yeah, it was basically he had made the Avengers in the Authority, but it wasn't really the Avengers. It was just this elite
Right.
American super team that got totally screwed up by the Authority.
Yes, mostly the Midnighter, actually.
Yes.
But,
well, they hurt his boyfriend. You don't do that.
As you do.
So, but now going to RPGs, okay, and making characters and things like that. Mechanics aside, I found that because I've ran superhero games and I've played superhero games, and my opinion of the people who write comic books, especially like higher powered cosmic level, is really high, because in my opinion of them is really high, because that's really hard to do.
Like
Yes.
Dan Abnett?
Exactly.
because he can crap excellent.
That's right.
That's like Greg's autonomic trigger.
Pulp authors and comic book authors do not get the props that they deserve, because Dan Abnett is great. If
Yes.
he wrote like
Genre writers in
crime-
general,
if he
really.
was like a James Patterson style writer, he would be enormous.
Right.
I
But
want
he
to read
chooses
some
to
James
write.
Patterson just to see if he can actually write.
General
'Cause-
consensus is that he can, but I believe that Dan Abnett is the greatest writer of our generation right now.
Forgive me because I have not read comics regularly for years. What has Dan Abnett written?
Almost every decent 40K novel that there is, plus I'm not sure what
he
his
does
comic-
a lot
So
of
this is not a comic book.
No,
then.
he does comic books
comics
too. He
also.
does the cosmic, a lot of the Marvel
Guardians of the
cosmic.
Guardians of the Galaxy. He did a lot of the Nova part of the Annihilation series.
Nova. Now she's a Herald of Glass.